Hello, am I audible? Okay, so I was told that we are really short of time, so I'm gonna skip the icebreaker jokes and move right on. So yeah, I'm Nishchay, and today I'm gonna talk about ADA, which is Automated Document Assessment. It is it's a suite of tools that we've created to aid the publishing workflow. So a little bit about Editage before I jump into ADA. So Editage is an author services company, and we help the authors, get published. We provide translation support, editing support, publication service support. So far, we have serviced almost 300,000 authors, and almost 1 million manuscripts have gone through our workflows. From a technology perspective, we are about 100 plus, almost 120 now in technology. It's a fully in-house team. And we also have set up a few offshore centers just recently. And we do have dedicated focus on data science, NLP, and AI. NLP being the natural progression for us, given that we've got a large amount of data, editors that are working with us. So yeah, so the challenge. This is typical workflow from a publisher perspective. An author submits a manuscript, and it goes through an editorial desk, and then it goes for a peer review, and then onward to publishing. So this is how it normally works. The stage over here is the editorial desk stage. And what we've seen is that a large number of manuscripts are being rejected and or sent for revision in that stage. Also, the work is mostly manual, like largely manual. There are some assistive tools that people use. There are some web-based tools that are used, but mostly it is manual. And there is a large time, sometimes due to various reasons, where the manuscript is just stuck into the assessment stage. What we've also seen is that there is a large amount of research coming from countries like China, Japan, South Korea, and even India, where English is not the primary language. And one research says that the volume doubles in every 6 years, and maybe by 2020 it could go all the way down to, let's say, 3 years. Poor English, or the quality of English is one of the top 5 reasons why a paper is sent for revision or rejected. Now this, coupled with the earlier slide, it just amplifies the problem drastically. So as more and more research, now this graph is about the R&D output, but just start of this year, we saw that China has surpassed US in terms of overall publication output. So there is a lot of manuscripts being written. There's a lot of research being generated in those nations. So yeah, by the way, this is Ada Lovelace, and she's credited to be the first female programmer. So that's how we came with the acronym. So the solution, so we wanted to figure out what happens at that stage. What can we try and solve something? Can we try and basically build something that will solve? And one of the things, and obviously we started speaking with editorial desk managers, and fortunately one of the publisher partners approached us during the same time. So when we devised a solution, we devised it for them initially, so that we are solving the right thing. We're not just building some kind of technology and then figuring out what the use case may be. So what we found out is that one of the many steps, or one of the many tasks that the editorial desk does is check the paper for readability, or check the paper and see, or check the manuscript and see, is the language good? Is it comprehensible? Is it easy to understand, such that it can go into a peer review stage? And given that, we thought, hey, let's try and solve for this particular part. So that's a vision. That was a challenge that, hey, let's solve for readability. Now, simply speaking, what readability is the ease with which a certain reader can understand a written piece of text. So there was a lot of research done around readability around 40s, around 60s, and a little bit in the 1980s. And there are still a lot of public formulas that are out there. If you go to Wikipedia, type in readability, you'll see about 10 or 15 public formulas that are available. So when we started, obviously we started with that. We wanted to start agile, very MVP based. And what we found out that those formulas were not helping us. They were not giving us the accuracy we need. It was really, it was not accurate at all. And then from a technology perspective, we're like, okay, let's understand what is happening. And when we got in, we realized that it's primarily because of the academic content. All these formulas that were created, primarily one of the category was for K-12, second was for early educators, but nothing was really focused on academic content. So obviously, given that, we went to our firepower in-house, which is our editing team. So we've got a large set of editors with probably collective centuries of experience in English editing. And we asked a question like, what does readability mean in terms of academic content? How does, what are certain parameters, features, or what are certain indicators or matrices that we can basically generate which will determine that a certain piece of text is readable or not, or it's hard to read? Or maybe another way to look at it is that is a certain sentence or piece of text written in a way which completely jars, like completely destroys the meaning of the sentence. So what we started doing is we started looking at data ourselves. Now, many people have spoken about it that, garbage in, garbage out. So we wanted to make sure that we understand the human beings who are working on a technology solution understand the data first. So we assessed almost 50,000, maybe much more, 50,000 manuscripts, and many of them were actually assessed manually. We collective hundreds of hours were spent to understand what are certain patterns that we can generate. So based on that corpus, we generated almost 30 to 35 different metrics that could affect the readability of a sentence. Like, for instance, for a very simple example is how many syllables were used in a certain word. I'm sorry, how many syllables, multi-syllable words were used in a certain sentence, or how is the punctuation being used, or is the sentence over-punctuated or very less punctuated, so on and so forth. After we got that, we started training our machines to basically figure out and find out certain patterns. And we fed it almost 120,000 manuscripts to basically come up with some kind of a recommendation engine, if you may, to guide us towards what is the current scale of a manuscript in terms of readability scale. After we did all that, the end was to basically create cascading sets of rules. Algorithm is just a fancy word, but basically cascading set of rules that will fire up and determine the score. So the output was a binary readable score, binary readability score, and language metrics. So the thinking was that can a machine determine or basically make a decision saying that, hey, you know what, paper A, yes for peer review, paper B, bad language, or language needs a lot of work, so please go back and then come back again. So that was the goal. So that's how one of the output is. But along with that output, we also have many other language-based metrics that Ada outputs, which can basically help make decision. One of the publisher partner who's currently in production since last 3 weeks now, they are not only using the binary score, but they're also using the metrics to make certain decisions and basically create the formula of their own and taking it forward. So let me show you a quick output. So this is how, I don't want to fall. This is a standard output of Ada. So this is for one manuscript. So on the top left, you see, I don't know if it's readable, but basically it says readability good. Here, basically, it talks about what is the language composition and structure composition of a manuscript and what is the level there. So basically, here it's saying, I can't read, but basically large percentage is good and a small percentage is poor. Same with the structure composition. We also show how many spelling errors are made in a document and how many grammatical errors are made. There are certain statistics here which just talks about basic statistics of a manuscript. On the right-hand side, so this is like a long report, but I've just split it into two. On the right-hand side, it shows within the grammatical errors or within a set of errors, what are the certain types of errors. So here it says typography, basic grammar, redundancy, a certain word was being used multiple times, punctuation is a problem. There are many other things that this example doesn't show, but one of the common asks that we found from one of our publisher partners is that can we determine British English versus American English? So one of the outputs that we also show is that if the setting says evaluate for British English, we show that, hey, there are American spellings being used in this. So yeah, this is how Ada's output looks like. Now, this is an interface that we had created initially for our own demos and basically to talk about it. But I think, as and more, we are talking with certain publishers. Some of them are liking this interface, so we expanded it a bit to, you can get a login, assess it yourself. But primarily, it is like a JSON integration or an API integration. So 2 minutes? Oh, OK, that was fast. OK, I'll go extremely fast now. So yeah, so we realized that, hey, we've solved the problem of readability, which was not solved in academia before, probably in the way that we did it. But that was still not covering the full stage. That was still not helping eliminate the full stage of the editorial desk. So how do we make it better? So we started building other features or set of tools to basically help with that process. So readability being obviously one of them, ethical commercial declaration. So again, in short, it checks for if a certain ethical or commercial declarations are being made in a certain manuscript based on the settings. Funding body match. So this is a very particular request that where, hey, if a certain funding information is provided in the manuscript, can you, get information about the funder and some statistics around that. Structural conformity. So this was huge for us because, well, it was huge for us from a technology perspective because we failed a lot here. We had like almost 20, 25 iterations to, perfect it. So this talks about, like I am read is one of the example, if a certain manuscript is following that. Aims and scope match. So again, this is around, understanding ontology, understanding, what a certain journal's aims and scopes are. We work with the journal or work with the society to get that and then try and match it with the manuscript. Again, image resolution. So this was very interesting where we found out that, there are there are manuscripts being submitted with image that doesn't have the right DPI or right resolution, so they may not be suitable for print. So we quickly build that out too. There are a few other things that are in the progress. So again, I'll just, OK. So there are 2 things that we want to do now. One is context evaluation and concept evaluation. So with context, which is the central idea identification, the vision is that how is it possible for us to extract, say, 5 sentences or 5 key phrases within a certain manuscript that will help, the peer reviewer that will help the editorial desk route it to the right reviewer. Journal scope match. I think enough has been said earlier about that, but trying to match, basically the context of the concepts within a paper or within a manuscript to within a manuscript to basically figure out what journal it can be submitted to, and this can be really huge, especially during in the whole cascading requirement. Research novelty estimator. So that's something that we are just toying with. We have few ideas in place where understanding trending. What does trending mean? So someone today talked about that, trending doesn't always mean that, currently a certain concept is being talked about a lot. Trending means that what will happen in next 1 year, okay? Are we building, are we basically are we publishing a manuscript where a year from now or say X months from now, it is going to become novel? So we are toying with these kind of things. One of the very interesting, very small feature that one of our partners had asked for is, can we detect if a certain manuscript has been machine translated versus human translated? So that was really interesting, and so we are trying to build that too, but it's not here, unfortunately. So yeah, I think this is it. I'll be here today and tomorrow in case you guys want to have a chat about Ada, chat about technology, and in case you're a publisher and you want to talk about demos and piloting, please reach out to me or Nikesh. Yeah. Okay, thank you.